What if I told you the Cleveland Browns are about to fire the only coach who gave them a taste of real success? Not next year. Not during the offseason. Right now, before Halloween. And believe it or not, that might just be the beginning. Behind the scenes, whispers are turning into full-blown panic. Texts are being leaked, doors are being slammed. And somewhere in a quiet corner of Berea's facility, decisions are being made that could reshape the entire franchise again. Kevin Stefanski, Coach of the Year not too long ago, is now being looked at like he's the problem. But here's where it gets crazy. It's not just fans ranting online. Insiders, executives, anonymous sources, they're all pointing fingers. And no one is safe anymore. The GM? On the chopping block. The quarterback room? A confusing mess. And the hottest name in college football might be planning his escape before things collapse entirely. This is not just a slump. It's not a rebuild. It's a full-blown implosion, and it's happening in plain sight. So, how did the Browns go from turning a corner to slamming face first into the same brick wall? Let's break it down. If you told Browns fans a year ago that Kevin Stefanski might be fired before the halfway mark of the season, they'd laugh right in your face. This was the guy who ended a cursed legacy of failure, the man credited with dragging Cleveland's football identity out of the basement and into the national conversation. A steady hand, a respected voice, a coach of the year. And now, he's being quietly set up as a scapegoat? According to league insiders, the Browns front office isn't just frustrated, they're done. Behind closed doors, there's talk of changes already in motion, the kind that don't wait for the season to run its course. The kind that flip the table while the game's still going. No press releases, no drama, just quiet sabotage dressed up as restructuring. Whispers have turned into serious conversations, texts between execs, leaks from the locker room, and inside chatter that's leaking out like a cracked pipe nobody's fixing. And the scariest part? This doesn't feel like panic, it feels planned. One insider summed up the mood perfectly. There's no more sympathy left for Stefanski. That well is dry. He didn't stop there. He even questioned if there was ever sympathy for Andrew Berry, either the general manager who's been tied to Stefanski from the beginning. According to him, the coaching staff is circling the drain, and nobody's jumping in to plug the hole. And here's the twist that's throwing everyone off balance. Stefanski's downfall might not be about performance alone. Some say it's personal, petty even. His early success, his calm demeanor, his ability to win without drama, it apparently rubbed certain people upstairs the wrong way. Made them feel replaceable. Like maybe they weren't the smartest ones in the room anymore. Power struggles in football are nothing new, but when they happen in Cleveland, they hit different. Now, insiders say it's not if Stefanski's gone, it's when. October might be generous. November is looking like a long shot. And unless something drastic changes, he might be coaching his final games right now, while the entire league watches the Browns unravel from the inside out. Because in Cleveland, stability isn't celebrated, it's suspicious. If you thought this was just a coaching issue, think again, because sources close to the facility say the power vacuum at the top is where things really start to rot. While Stefanski's play calls are getting roasted on national TV, the front office led by general manager Andrew Berry is absorbing a different kind of fire. Quiet but ruthless. According to multiple league insiders, Berry's seat is warming up fast. And it's not just because of a couple of bad losses, it's the whole blueprint that's being questioned. This was supposed to be the era of smart football, data-driven decisions, controlled aggression, a full system rebuild built on patience and precision. Instead, it's starting to look like a failed tech startup with an empty slideshow and zero results. One insider didn't hold back. If this season ends with a 3-14 record or even 4 or 5 wins total, Berry's nameplate is coming down. No doubt about it. Another team source went even further, saying ownership has seen enough and wants to clean house from top to bottom, not just Stefanski, not just the staff, everyone. The reports suggest there's no singular reason for all this, but a pile of them stacking to the ceiling. Some say it's power, others say it's pride, and a few believe it's as simple as ego. The idea that a coach and GM might take credit for building something successful? Yeah, that doesn't sit well with certain people upstairs, the kind of people who write the checks and expect all the praise. What's worse is how disorganized everything's become behind the scenes. People on the inside talk about meetings filled with tension, strategies being scrapped without explanation, and a creeping sense that no one's really steering the ship anymore. Just people pulling in opposite directions and hoping something clicks. And just like that, the so-called new era in Cleveland has started to feel like the same old disaster, just with more spreadsheets. The takeaway? This isn't just a Stefanski problem anymore. It's an organizational identity crisis. And if things don't change immediately, you won't just see a coaching change, you'll witness a complete Cleveland cleanse with new faces in every office and nothing left from the current regime but dust and blame. The most brutal twist in this entire meltdown? Kevin Stefanski was supposed to be the one who broke the curse. When he came in, the Browns were a national punchline, a team known more for chaos than football. But under Stefanski, things got quiet, organized, respectable. He brought structure to a broken locker room and commanded attention without theatrics. Finally, Cleveland had its grown-up in the room. And the NFL noticed. Coach of the Year honors. National media praise. Real talk about the Browns becoming contenders. Fast forward to now, and he's sweating under stadium lights that once made him a star. Suddenly, he's that guy nervously fumbling through post-game pressers, grasping for answers and talking like everything's fixable with a couple of tweaks. Fixable? Cleveland's offense has looked anything but. They haven't scored over 20 points in 7 straight games. That's not a skid, that's a collapse. And for someone branded as an offensive mastermind, it's pure humiliation. Analysts have pointed out the glaring contradiction. He's an offensive guru, then explain why his offense looks allergic to the end zone. And it gets worse. Stefanski's calm, polished demeanor, once his greatest strength, is now being flipped against him. Fans call him passive, detached, too calm for the chaos. Reporters ask direct questions. His answers sound like a broken PR template. We're evaluating everything. We're close. We're working hard. At this point, fans don't want calm. They want emotion, urgency, life. One commentator nailed it. It's like a teenager bluffing their way through a book report on a novel they didn't read. You can hear the emptiness behind the words. Meanwhile, the defense is elite. It's championship caliber, which makes the offensive dysfunction even more unforgivable. The pieces are there. The money's been spent. So why can't this team move the ball? That's the question haunting Cleveland's front office. And the answer they're starting to align on? Maybe the architect isn't a genius after all. The irony cuts deep because just when the Browns thought they'd found their guy, it's all falling apart faster than anyone imagined. The very coach who sparked hope is now being blamed for putting out the flame. And the worst part? This is starting to feel familiar. So what happens if Kevin Stefanski gets the axe? Well, if you believe the whispers trickling out of league offices and late-night text threads, there's already a new plan quietly forming. NFL insiders claim the Browns aren't flying blind on this. In fact, some say Cleveland ownership already has a name written in pencil on a secret shortlist. Josh Gazzardi, the rising coordinator from Tampa Bay. One of the crown jewels of the McVay-Shanahan coaching tree, the same lineage that's produced multiple Super Bowl contenders and offensive juggernauts. To some, this sounds smart, strategic, refreshing. To others, it feels like hitting the panic button with a blindfold on. Reportedly, the thinking isn't to tear everything down and start over with a brand new system. Instead, the goal would be to find someone who can build on Stefanski's schematic framework, but execute it better, cleaner, sharper, with more juice. One analyst compared it to remodeling a house, not demolishing it. The bones are good, the foundation's sturdy. We just need someone who can finish the job and knows which walls to knock down. That someone, according to sources, needs to bring 2 things: modern offensive energy and a fearless presence in the locker room. Gazzardi, by all accounts, has both. Young, aggressive, and not afraid to take risks, traits that owners love when they're selling fans on a new vision. But here's the problem. Hiring a hotshot new coach won't magically fix trust issues in the front office or repair fractured momentum. If the Browns are truly going to reboot again, we're talking about more than just swapping one headset for another. We're talking about stripping the entire identity of the franchise and stitching together something new. Again. And fans? They're already burnt out from this cycle. The endless carousel of new faces, promised philosophies, and culture changes that never stick. Browns fans want more than vision boards and PowerPoints. They want execution, wins, touchdowns, relevance. So while the idea of a McVay protege showing up with fresh ideas might sound exciting, the bigger question still looms. Would anything actually change? Or would the Browns just be dressing a new coach in the same doomed script? Let's talk about the part no one can ignore: the actual football. Because while the headlines discuss coaching futures and front office politics, the on-field product has become a running joke. Cleveland isn't just losing, they're unraveling on national television with a level of dysfunction so surreal, it's hard to believe it's not scripted. 8 straight losses. Let that sink in. 8. In a row. Dating back to last season, the Browns have failed to win a single game across 2 different campaigns. That's not just a losing streak, it's an institutional freefall. And every Sunday feels less like a professional football game and more like watching a clown car roll downhill in slow motion. Fireworks going off, no one at the wheel. One analyst compared it to watching someone trip on the same banana peel every week. You know it's coming, and somehow they still manage to fall for it again. And the worst offender isn't the defense. It's not penalties or special teams. It's the offense. Week after week, they look like they've never practiced together before. Missed routes, awkward footwork, 0 red zone efficiency. It's astonishing how often players look flat out confused, motioning at each other after blown plays as if trying to solve the mystery mid-huddle. And while the fan base watches this disaster unfold, the coaching staff continues serving the same vague, lifeless answers like reheated leftovers. We just need to execute better. Translation: we have no idea what's going wrong. The play calling feels robotic, the rhythm is non-existent, and the scoreboard tells you everything you need to know. The Browns haven't scored more than 20 points in 7 straight games. For a team that prides itself on having an offensive-minded head coach, that stat should be a fire alarm. Meanwhile, the defense is out there grinding, putting up elite-level performances. For what, to keep games close while the offense plays hot potato with the football? At this point, even casual fans are starting to joke that the offense treats the end zone like it's a restricted area, as if there's caution tape across the goal line. And here's the catch: people would be laughing harder if it wasn't so painful to watch. Because for once, Cleveland isn't losing because they're cursed. They're losing because the system absolutely does not work. You can't talk about the Browns' collapse without zooming in on the absolute circus called their quarterback situation. At training camp, it was supposed to be a bold, competitive decision. 4 different QBs taking reps, 4 different playing styles. The public spin was that this would reveal the best man for the job. In theory, it sounded exciting. In the real world, it was total disaster. No one got enough first-team reps. No one built chemistry with the starters. Instead of creating competition, it created confusion, and it's still showing every single Sunday. The receivers never look in sync. The timing is always a half step off, and even the most basic throws feel like a game of improv where everyone forgot their lines. One commentator put it bluntly: this wasn't a quarterback battle. It was a chemistry killer, plain and simple. And then, in the most Browns fashion possible, the coaching staff handed the keys to Joe Flacco, a decision that had fans both scratching their heads and, weirdly, celebrating at first. There was even a moment, however brief, when "Flacco around and find out" became a legit rally cry on Browns Twitter. But like everything else in this story, it soured real quick. After one particularly ugly loss, the celebratory tweets turned into full-blown verbal attacks. "You blew the game, Flacco. You bum. Bring Watson back," posted one fan. The emotional whiplash is real. And it wasn't just the quarterback that had people fuming. The Browns also made the controversial decision to stick with their current kicker despite having league-proven options like Dustin Hopkins available. One analyst said it best: "Every single kick that man missed today, Hopkins would have made. Full stop." None of these decisions exist in a vacuum. They're choices that compound losses. When your QB can't lead, when your receivers aren't on the same page, and when the kicker can't convert under pressure, you don't just lose games, you destroy locker room trust. And up in the press box? It's leadership roulette, no one's stepping up and no one's taking blame. At this point, it doesn't just feel like mistakes are being made. It feels like the Browns are running a trial and error experiment on live television, hoping something works by accident. Coaching chaos, quarterback roulette, and roster decisions that make zero football sense? That's not a rebuild. That's organizational malpractice. While the Browns scramble to tape their offense back together and argue over which quarterback should start each week, there's one name echoing through locker rooms and sports radio stations nationwide: Shadur Sanders. And if you don't think he's part of Cleveland's future or potential downfall, you haven't been paying attention. Shadur isn't just a rising talent. He's the rising talent, a quarterback with a cannon for an arm, pocket awareness beyond his years, and that intangible superstar presence that front offices drool over. And more importantly, he's very available. For now. Sources around the league say Cleveland has an opportunity, maybe even a real shot to bring him in, whether via draft, trade, or long-term development as they quietly plan for a younger, long-term QB solution. But here's the thing, time is not on their side. Because as Cleveland stumbles through another offensive breakdown every Sunday, fans and insiders are starting to ask a dangerous question. What if Shadur gets fed up and walks away from the Browns before the chaos swallows him too? It's not impossible. In fact, some reports suggest division rival teams are already circling. The Cincinnati Bengals, for example, are rumored to be toying with the idea of bringing in a high-upside QB1. With Joe Burrow's health always under a microscope, top-tier backup talent is suddenly a hot commodity, one that could easily become the starting option if injury strikes. Now imagine this. Shadur Sanders, Cleveland's best shot at finally landing a franchise quarterback, jumps ship and goes to Cincinnati. Suddenly, you're not just rebuilding. You're bleeding talent directly into the hands of a hated rival as they reload for another title run. That alone would push Browns fans into meltdown mode. It's fear-inducing, yes, but it's also deeply symbolic. Because if Shadur, as poised and talented as he is, looks at this franchise and decides, nah, not worth it, it tells you everything you need to know. Not just about quarterback mismanagement, but about the way Cleveland repels talent, about how instability at the top always finds a way to destroy potential at the bottom. There's still time to fix it. But lose Shadur? And it's Cleveland's final punchline written in neon. If you've been following the Browns long enough, none of this probably surprises you. The coaches change, the quarterbacks rotate, the schemes evolve. But somehow, the story always feels painfully familiar, like the team is following a cursed script written decades ago, and no one ever bothered to burn the pages. Let's break it down. Cleveland had months, literal months during the offseason to prepare, plenty of time to lock in a starting quarterback, sort out chemistry issues, build rhythms, and fix the problems that ended last season in disaster. Instead, they rolled into week 1 like a kid who stayed up all night, studying the wrong chapter, showing up in the exam room squinting at the test like it's in a foreign language. And now, everyone, coaches, players, analysts, fans, is standing around acting shocked when the team trips over itself on national TV. Again, it's not just a bad start, it's a franchise relapse. And deep down, Browns fans know it. That sinking feeling in your gut? It's not just disappointment, it's recognition. Because we've been here before. The names are different, the slogans change, the jerseys rotate, but the ending always rhymes. One commentator put it best. Only in Cleveland could 5 minutes of stability feel like a sign something's wrong. Because the moment things go well, someone upstairs starts panicking. Like success is suspicious. Like competence must be hiding a flaw. And instead of riding the wave, the team slaps the reset button so hard it practically shatters the console. Then comes the chaos, the scrambling, the mixed messages, the "we're fine" press conferences delivered with the energy of a high school student lying about homework. All while the defense plays their hearts out, only to see every effort wasted by an offense that looks allergic to scoring. And now, here we are again, halfway through another season, with another coach hanging by a thread, a GM dodging rumors, and fans watching film clips like it's a blooper reel no one asked for. In the most tragic way possible, this isn't an anomaly, it's tradition. And unless something massive changes, unless someone breaks the cycle, this curse isn't going anywhere. Because the Cleveland Browns didn't just build chaos, they made it their brand. So here we are, again, coaching futures in limbo, quarterback chaos spilling into headlines, front office loyalty cracking like old paint, and a stadium full of fans wondering how it all went wrong this fast. Kevin Stefanski went from being Cleveland's Golden Boy Coach of the Year, the great fixer of years-long dysfunction, to a guy staring down the firing squad mid-season. And Andrew Berry, the architect of the so-called rebuild, might be the next domino to fall. Meanwhile, the offense is barely keeping the lights on, and the one player who could change the franchise's future, Shadur Sanders, might be one bad decision away from running to a division rival. It would be funny if it wasn't so familiar, and that's the haunting part. Because maybe this isn't just about bad play calling or poor roster choices. Maybe it's something deeper, something that always shows up in Cleveland when hope gets too high. Call it a curse, call it bad luck, call it a culture problem. But whatever it is, it's back. And once again, the Browns are standing at a crossroads. They can double down, pray for a miracle, and keep pretending this is just a rough patch. Or they can admit the truth, that the foundation's cracked, that the walls are closing in, and that maybe, just maybe, it's time to burn it all down again. One more embarrassing loss could be all it takes to change everything. New coach, new system, new identity. But the real question isn't who gets cut, it's whether things will ever actually change. Because for a town that's known nothing but hope, followed by heartbreak, how many times can you hit reset before the fans stop believing completely?